Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be here today. We're grateful to have a voice and a channel that we can think about Thee. We can worship Thee. We can talk and share story. We're so grateful for all the challenges and struggles that we've had in our life, the times and the gaps where we feel hardship, but also we feel Thy love, and how we found strength to be lifted by Thee and to just simply hold on.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to the Hold On podcast. So excited to be in studio today with another just extremely special guest, Amber. I'm going to forget it now. Amber Shana Williams. We talked about this earlier. I wasn't going to mess up the middle name, but I did. Anyways.
You did great.
Thanks. But for those of you who don't know, Amber, one of the probably most liked characters, or
I don't know about that,
in The Chosen, but anyways, just super blessed to have you in the studio, and we want to thank Tom for being the bridge to make some of these guests happen in our podcast, because otherwise it wouldn't happen. But thanks for taking the time out of a very busy schedule and to be with us. And like all of our podcasts, we ask our guests to just open it up with a word of prayer to help invite the Spirit and just kind of get it kicked off the right way. So if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
That would be great.
Heavenly Father, we're gathered here today. We know that when there are two or more in your presence, that you are there in the midst. And we ask that you cover everyone that is sitting in this room, everyone connected to those who are sitting in this room, and lift them up and put them in your loving embrace, Lord, because we know that there's so much that we face on a daily basis, and we know that we wouldn't be able to continue without you. Please bless us with discernment so that we're able to have better and greater understanding of the things that you're trying to show and teach us and guide us. We ask that you enter a room before we do, so that we know that we are protected once we get there. We thank you for our fellowship, our friendship, and our family, and we ask that you continue to guide our steps from here and forever. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amber, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So, you're in town.
I'm in town.
For a fefew days.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing my
Your giving machine.
My giving machine, like the
your
world.
candy cane scarf.
Because that's really one of the reasons you're here, is to help promote and push that. And I got to hear you this morning talk and welcome, and again, just thanks for taking the time. I know you have a lot of things that you could be doing, but you're here in Caldwell, Idaho, of all places, freezing cold.
It's cold here. Yeah.
to share your message. And I first want to just, like I'm sure a lot of people tell you this, but The Chosen has done so much for the world. And I can say from a dad perspective and a follower of Jesus that it was amazing when our kids started saying, when can we watch The Chosen? Like, when is the next episode coming? The impact that you guys have made on families has just been just amazing. The work that you guys are doing is touching so many lives. So I just wanted to start with just a word of gratitude to say thank you for being a part of that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amber, did you ever think you were going to be here? Did you ever think you would be sitting here, chosen?
I had no expectations. I remember getting the request to audition for it. I had no idea what it was. I was like, oh goodness, another faith-based, because we just kind of have our preconceived ideas about the quality of this type of programming. Sure. And I was like, is it any good? And I went and saw the first 4 episodes that were out at that time, and I was wowed. I was like, this is good. Like, I haven't seen anything this good in a long time, and it was shot so well, and I just wanted to be a part of it, and that's it. That was my goal going in. I just want to be a part of this for this short moment in time, and I can look back on this in 20 years and be like, I did that show that one time. And then I was blessed beyond measure when they called me and were like, hey, we want you back. And I thought it was like for an episode or 2, and they're like, no, we want you on the team. Like, you're stuck with us now, hon. And I always call it the little show that could, because it was just Dallas passion project, honestly. And we were all there, like riding that train with him, and to see how it's grown and affected so many lives and touched so many people in all the far corners, all the reaches of this planet has been humbling. It has been overwhelming in some of the best ways. And not only has it like changed them, but it's changed all of us as well, because there's so much growth that we had to go through in order to stay on this journey together, especially for so long. I think 2018 or something like that when we started, and it's almost 2026, and
Wow.
we've all been on this journey together. A lot of people can't say that. And it's been by the grace of God and sheer will that we're here still. And it's such a blessing. So, no, to answer your question, I did not expect to be sitting here in Idaho in the winter, um, speaking about a show that has changed my life forever, and speaking about a show that changed my life forever with people who've also been changed because of the show, which is kind of the thing you hope as an artist that you can do,
Yeah.
is affect people with your work. And I'm really lucky that we've been able to do that.
Well, it's incredible. I think that something that I would like to ask you about is everyone sees Amber, the chosen, right? They see you in the polished version. They see you as the actress today and this just amazing strength and courage. But let's rewind a little bit back in history and tell us your story. Tell us, where did Amber come from? What did you grow up in? And how did that shape you into who you are today?
Oh, how much time do you guys have?
As much time as you
Oh
have.
goodness. It's always hard for me to keep some of these things brief, but I'll do my best. I grew up in a broken home. My parents were never married. I call myself a love child. My parents, that's not the important part. They didn't like each other. I'm pretty sure they still don't. And so that made childhood really difficult for me. My mom was a young mother. She had 4 of us by the time she was 21. And my dad had 6 kids. My mom had 5. And I was just kind of somewhere in the middle. I've been the oldest, middle, and youngest all together. And life was just complicated. We didn't have any money. I was telling Tom about that earlier, how it was kind of admirable how my parents, especially my mother, was able to make a dollar stretch to do so much. And it was tough because it wasn't a really loving childhood. I knew there was love there, but it wasn't like that. When you think of love, you think of warm, comfy feelings and nurturing and hugs and kisses and things like that. Our love was teaching us how to survive in this world. And I got plenty of that. But it was my grandparents who really showed me what deep compassion looked like, and partnership and friendship. And they were my best friends. And so just kind of getting through some of the things you go through as a normal child, and then some of the things that no child should ever go through, that I think we talked about. No, that was earlier today when we were doing the introducing the giving machines, that there's some things that a child should never experience. And I experienced some of those things. And I remember telling my dad about it because he didn't know. My mom didn't know either, because you're a child, you don't know to speak up when things happen. And my dad was choked up. He didn't know what to say. And he just apologized for not being able to protect me during that because he didn't know. And I just think about how many children sit in silence and things like that. But I always just had a heart for performing. It's like catharsis. It's like our therapy. And I remember giving like full like scale productions in the living room. I'm like, everyone stop what they're doing. I'm about to sing for you. Pay attention. And that's kind of how I started to love this this art as a way to express myself, because I grew up in a place where I couldn't do that. And when you wanted to, it was kind of discouraged. But as long as you were performing, it was okay, to be honest. And so that was the only time I could truly be honest in my life, was when I was pretending to be someone else. And, life just happens. I've moved around a whole bunch. It got better for us. Like my mom took us out of poverty, and she joined the military, so we moved all over the place. I got married a little young, that was very unhealthy for me. But during that time, I learned so much. Um, Someone told me that when you're going through what you would feel be bad times or bad luck or difficult decisions, it's like, just wait. Because it puts you in a place where you're supposed to be sometimes. And I can say that most recently, the past 2 or 3 years have been extremely difficult for me, health wise, personal life wise, family wise. No one ever calls me. I'm sorry, it's my real estate agent. Have you guys ever tried to buy a house in LA? It is expensive. We're going to do not disturb that. No, but no, the past few years have been really difficult for me from just all aspects. Just marriage wise, health wise. I experienced my first pregnancy loss, and that was really difficult. I shared that here actually in Idaho for the first time because I don't speak about the things I go through. And like a lot of people, they carry these burdens in private. They suffer in silence because they think that no one can handle their pain, which is why it's so admirable that you guys are like, here, let's talk about that, because it gives other people permission to do that. When I spoke on stage, and I actually wasn't even planning to do that because, like I said, I keep everything so private. But something was on my spirit to speak about it, and I did. And if you can't imagine the number of messages and calls and women that came up to me and just were like, thank you so much. I have been going through that. This is my sixth. This is my first. And it's just, it's so touching. And you're like, oh, the fact that you can be honest and share this gives other people the permission to do the same thing. And so I looked death in the face multiple times in the past few years. And there were times where I was just like, well, this might be it. And no one knows that. My castmates don't know that. My family doesn't know that. My own mom doesn't know a lot of things. But there were times where it was just, I was planning to just not be here in a couple of years, a few years, and months. I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was really scary. But then I found peace in it all. And I found that as long as my existence here on this planet was able to make someone's day or life just a little bit better, then that was my purpose of being here. But it is a really scary thing. And even as recent as last week, I was in the hospital. And earlier this year, we thought I might have had blood cancer. And I was terrified because that's one of the scariest ones, that you can have. And I remember finding out, and I remember being so overwhelmed by the news. Mind you, I've gone through, just in the past 2 years, I'd gone through an extremely painful miscarriage in my first pregnancy. I'd gone through a health scare just the year before that had me in the hospital for weeks. And then now here I am back again, and you're telling me that I could have something wrong with my blood. And I prayed about it because one of my big things when I pray is asking for discernment. I know you're speaking to me, but I just don't know what you're saying. I can't get past myself to really truly hear what you're saying. So please, I need your understanding. If you could give me the discernment to understand. And I found great peace in that, and acceptance. And when I say that sometimes being in a position where you feel so low, at the bottom of the barrel, that it puts you make certain decisions when you're there that may put you in places where you need to be at a certain time. And because of that, I was like, you know what? We had just announced season 5, and they were going to show our promotional images in Times Square that Annie Leibovitz shot of us. And I was in Spain, and I was like, you know what? If I'm not here tomorrow, I'll regret not being there. You only get one first time. I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going. I canceled. I booked a job and everything. I booked another show in Spain. I was just like, you know what? I'm not available that day. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to get someone else to do it. Well, you do that. But thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm going to do that because I don't want tomorrow to come and I won't be here. And I never had that experience. And through the grace of God, they were like, you know what? We'll change the schedule around. And they made room for me. And I flew out there. And when I flew out there, I felt at peace. I stood there and I saw my face on a big screen. And that was on my bucket list. And it felt amazing. It felt like I had answered the call that God had sent me. And now I was reaping the rewards for that, even if it was for a short amount of time. And while I was there, I met a beautiful woman named Tracy Blackwell, and I had no idea who she was. And I found out later, Tracy's the whole reason why we got our contract with Amazon. And I didn't know who she was. I just thought she was just this beautiful woman. And she ended up being a pivotal reason of why our show is going up the trajectory that it's going now. And I would have never met her had I not made that decision. And meeting her has put me in other places that I would have never gone if I didn't think that I was going to die, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I had a bone marrow transplant the next day of my bone transplant, a bone marrow biopsy when I flew back to Spain the very next day. And it came back clean. And I'm like, God knew what he was doing. Because I would have never made that kind of decision if I thought everything was going to be okay. I would have talked myself out of it. And I realize I make a lot of decisions like that now because I have much more appreciation for life. And people always ask me, how do you do that? How do you have the difficult conversations and make these difficult choices? I'm like, because what's the worst that could happen? You end up exactly where you are now. Yeah. That's the worst that can happen. We have so many life or death responses to things that are not life and death situations. I've seen death and it's not scary at all. It's actually kind of comforting to know because I think that when someone passes away, their death is for those who are left behind to teach us something because you hold people a little bit tighter when you lose someone. You call your mom, you call your dad, you check in a bit more, and it makes us better people. I told you I'm going to be talking. You got to catch me. But it's been tough, and I don't talk about it a lot. I'm much better about it now. And obviously, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to go into detail on some of these situations. But it's just, I feel like every time I turn around, it's something else. And at this point, nothing surprises me. But also at this point, it's like, I don't like when people call me like strong or fearless. I mean, I'll accept it, but because I know it's said with love. Or what else do they call me? They definitely say strong a lot. Fearless is something that I've been called as well. And I'm like, I am none of those things. I also don't like when people say nice to me. And I'll tell you why. Strength is kind of the ability to endure in my mind. It's like you're standing there and you can you take it. You're like a wall and you're just kind of getting beaten and you're just there able to kind of withstand it. You might get a couple of chips, but you're strong. You're there enduring it and trucking through it. But resilience, and that's generally how I refer to myself. I'm actually resilient. And I say it's that I take a beating. I fall. I falter. I bruise. I bleed. And then I get up again.
And you know what's beautiful is you give yourself permission to fail.
Yes.
You give yourself permission to fall. Yes. I think there's so many people that are up there. They're the strong wall. And it's like, look, I can't fall. If I fall, I'm weak. If I fall, the world sees it. My mom, my kids, my something sees it. And I don't subscribe to like I think part of this life is about suffering, right? We have to suffer to experience joy. We have to suffer to know what happiness is. And so I think sometimes people, and I'd love for you to speak to this, man, I just can't catch a break. Yeah. I just can't catch a break. It just keeps coming and it just keeps coming and my life sucks. And like, you don't know what I'm going through, right? And that's how we think so much of ourselves in those moments. But actually, suffering has nothing to do with your happiness.
Grief is love.
Grief is love. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you agree with it that suffering's required? And can we be happy in spite of suffering.
I think someone said happiness is a choice, and it is something that you sometimes have to choose to subscribe to is happiness, because if you don't, you will live in that feeling of just you'll spiral in depression all the time. I've seen people who are going through some of the most difficult circumstances with the biggest, brightest smiles on their face. And it's kind of like what I was saying about that grief is love. What people think is strength is actually resilience, and what people think is fearlessness is actually courage, which is what I'm scared. I am. But you do it in spite of that. That's the bravery, that's the courage. And I believe that you can be happy even when you're going through something. You can't, because I think what the word that people are looking for is maybe joy. Because joy is something that no one can kind of take from you. Joy is something that is inherently there, which is also one of the reasons why I prefer the word kind instead of nice. Nice is something that you do in order to get a reaction of somebody else. I'm going to be polite to you so that you're polite to me, and I can be comfortable in our interaction. But kindness asks for nothing in return. It is the core of someone's being. And these are things that I think when you're going through something and you're in it, it is hard to see when you're in the middle of it. And that's why it's really important to, especially to those people I say is your tribe, is your circle, is your village. It is the people that you have in your life to remind you of these things, because even though we're going through so much, some of the things that we forget to hold on to during that is gratitude. What do you have? What are you grateful for, even though you're going through this trial right now? And I found that there was so much to be grateful for. What if that was bad news that I got back from my bone marrow biopsy? Well, I'm like, well, I'm grateful that I'm a part of one of the greatest shows of my generation right now. I am grateful that I'm able to live my dream. I am grateful for my family and my friends who are there for. I'm grateful for so much. Wow. Okay, it makes it a lot less difficult to carry in that point. And also one of the things is it's not really our responsibility to carry those burdens anyway.
Sure.
And we should be letting them fall by the wayside. But that's hard to do when you're in it. And that's why it's so important who you surround yourself with, so that they can remind you of that when things get really, really difficult.
Well, and speaking of tribe, and I think that the purest form of love comes from some of the deepest, darkest moments of life and from some of the darkest suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're there, I don't know, God has a unique way of humbling us to our core. But then at the same time, I think he provides people and he places people in our life that can pick us up, like you offered up in your prayer, to pick us up and to build us up. And that feeling at that moment, that feeling when I'm suffering and Amber comes to my side and she picks me up, I don't know that there's much that compares to that pure form of love, right?
I agree. And sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's a complete stranger. And I love to to leave myself open to those moments with people. And it was actually my therapist, and he was like, I was telling him everything, and he's just like, who else do you speak to? I was, because I think I mentioned earlier, my mom is amazing. Okay. She is one tough cookie because she's had to be. So she has a wall around her heart. And my mom taught me how to survive, but she's not like hugs and forehead kisses and bake you cookies, mom. Okay. She's like, we're going to tough through this kind of mom.
She's calloused.
Yes, absolutely. She lost her children in a car accident, her mother. So me and my sister were the only survivors of her children. So imagine being 23 and you lose your entire family, your sons and your mom. And you have no idea how to proceed in this world because your mother is gone. Your father is gone. It's just you and your kids that you need to provide for. And the world there just telling you what you can and can't do. So, but she is resilient and strong, and she's taught me so much about life, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. But it's taught me compassion, because I think growing up I didn't understand why she was the way she was. Why won't you hug me when I say my feelings are hurt? Why won't this happen? And as you grow up, and they tell you that about your kids, that they eventually come back and say thank you, but really, really you do, because you don't realize what someone else is going through and why they are the way they are. And I've learned such empathy, such compassion, especially to those who have hurt me. But my therapist was like, why don't you share this with people? And I was just like, well, because I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I want my mom. He's like, there's other people in your life who are mother-like that you could be sharing this with. You do not have to carry this on your own. There's people who love you and who could provide this for you. And then the floodgates open. Now, don't ask me anything, 'cause I'm going to tell you everything. But it's taught me a lot of compassion for how people move throughout this world. Some things that used to hurt me and I used to take personally, I now have great admiration for and appreciation and empathy. Because even what you were saying earlier is that people go through so much and it's one thing after another. Yeah, it is. That's life. But one thing about it is that although you are unique, your situation is not. Someone has lived through what you lived through before and they've made it. And I always try to remind people and myself is that God has brought me through 100% of everything that I've ever faced. And there's no reason why I should doubt that He won't do that again.
Time and time again.
Yeah. So that gets me through a lot. And I always remind myself is that trouble doesn't last always, and neither do the good moments. And so you take with that what you will is that this moment will be a memory soon. So when it's hard and difficult and trying and overwhelming, it's going to be a memory soon that you'll be looking back on. That look what I went through. Look what made me who I am today. But it's the same thing about the beautiful and the bright and the warm and the loving moments. Those will also be memories. So live in those now and be present for those. And that shift in thinking that you have when you don't think you're going to have it tomorrow really changes your life. So people really need to live like there's no tomorrow, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm picturing little Amber.
Yes.
Right, with mom going through exceptionally, sometimes probably even excruciating challenges, a car accident that took family, many of these, the challenges with health, the challenges with miscarriage, all these challenges that you've gone through. What's your calling in life? Like, have you ever sat there as a little girl? Did you sit there and say like, man, I feel like I'm meant to do more. There's something more.
I honestly think what I'm doing now, and it was almost prophesized. There was like a pastor who told me, she's like, you're gonna be successful and it's gonna be through Jesus. And I was just like, okay, lady. And literally it's through Jesus. I think this was my calling. And I'll tell you something I always say about that. I say, follow your passions because your passions will lead you to your purpose. And this was one of my passions was to do this. Like I said earlier, it's like how I express myself because I never had the permission to growing up. You just kind of had to do what you were told because there was no other option. And something that I feel is my purpose is to give back and help and especially those who do not have the resources or the family unit or the tribe to help support them, especially things with mental health. And so I always wanted to work in that. So I studied sociology and psychology, and I wanted to start a foundation in order to help people with mental health needs in communities that didn't have the resources to do so. So I'm still waiting on the blessing to be able to do that, to have the platform to do that and provide. I have a name for it and everything, but to provide that for people because it was something that even my mom could have used when she was going through everything she was going through, and that I could have used as a child to understand what was happening to me. And maybe I would have had the strength to speak up. And I think that that's something that we need. And then that's my purpose in life is to help bring purpose to others and to help guide them through this life with whatever tools and knowledge that I have. I want to share that with everyone else so that they can make their own mistakes and not mine, make new ones.
So you mentioned God a little earlier, and where did you first learn or know that He was a part of your life and kind of helping you through that? Where did that start?
in the womb. My dad is the minister of music, and he's been my whole life. He's a gospel music producer, so he's worked with some of the greats. And so I just kind of grew up in church. He's still the minister of music. I grew up in church, and so I kind of, well, you know what? Honestly, we don't really understand as children sometimes what's going on. We're just following our parents' lead, and so I've always been exposed to it. I think I never quite had my experience. I used to see people get touched by the Holy Spirit, and I'd be like, why is she screaming? What's happening over here? Why is she, Mom, I'm scared. So maybe my own actual, I've been baptized like 6 times. So I thought every time you got baptized, it would just wash whatever sin you had away. I was so young. Every time they had altar call, I'd be like, me, I did some things this week. Let's wash that away. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, actually, turns out. But I think it was when I found out, like as an adult, when I made like the conscious decision, was after I found out I had lupus, which is the first time I thought I was going to die. And I didn't know where to go. I hadn't gone to church in forever. I'd move away and I didn't know where to go. And that was the first place I could think to go, is just to go back to my childhood church I wasn't even a member of anymore, and just sit there and ask for healing. And I did. And I'm going to tell you something, because I think a lot of people could relate to it. When you do go through a lot, especially when it feels like it's never ending, you really start to question your faith. Like, why do I deserve this? Why are you doing this to me? Are you even there? Are you listening? Do you care? And I've had those conversations. I've been angry. I've shouted. I was like, well, just kill me now if I have to go through this. Just what? Let's get it over with. Like, please. It'd be better than all of this. And I'm still in a place where I'm like, I get upset, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let you handle this because I don't know what I'm doing. All right. That's it. Because you know what? Never mind. I'm gonna let you handle this. Like, there's just moments like that now, because it's like there's so much that we try to control and can't, and shouldn't. And I'm still at this big age learning that I still try to control things that I can't and I shouldn't. And I think when you decide to take this journey of faith, that doesn't end ever. They're like, oh, I'm a Christian now, and then that's it. That's the story. The story ends there. It absolutely doesn't. That is like, that is trials and tribulations. That's constant decision making. That's joy. That's disappointment. It is so much, because there's things you want to do, and you're like, I can't do that now. It's so much to accept, but it's also so fulfilling. And I used to get jealous because I had friends and they'd be, I'm filled with Holy Spirit. And I was like, you look happy. And I was jealous I was like,
Sure.
I was jealous. Why is she so happy? Why is she so smiling all the time? Oh my gosh, she's not talking about Jesus again. Okay. And I wanted a piece of that. And that's one thing I loved about The Chosen, is that even when I was going through like these difficult times and these challenges, I would see these people who are going through these devastating things that you compare to what you go through, and you're like, was it that bad for me? If she's going through this, like, I can only imagine. And it humbles you and it blesses you also, because you're like, if she can sit here in front of me right now with joy in her heart, tears in her eyes, and a smile on her face, I can get through this too. And it blesses you, and then it makes you want to be like, okay, what am I missing? Let me go back and let me start at the beginning. And so I've started at the beginning a few times, but I'm still here. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is we were watching one of your scenes just before you got here, and it's the one obviously where the lame man is dropped through the roof, right? And it's this dramatic scene. Like, Dallas just captured it so authentically and so beautifully. But there's a moment in there that really captures me, and I'm sure it captures a lot of people. But you almost became Christ-like in the moment, and you begged and pleaded with Jesus. And you said, please heal my friend. like I saw you heal the leper earlier. Like, please, just please. And I felt this spirit pouring from you, like, please just help this person. And I think that sometimes we forget that all the people around us are cheering for us and they're rooting us on. And yes, there's always those bad eggs, but like, it's so important the people that you surround yourself with. How have you been able to get out of poverty as a child? Surround yourself with this right tribe and these right peoples that have helped you become the resilient and the kind woman that you are today.
Well, I can credit that to my parents, especially my mom, like getting out of poverty, because she's one of the toughest women I know, and she was determined to make sure that we had a life that she didn't. And she provided all of that to us. And I'm so grateful for Mom. If you're looking, I'm so grateful for that. And she's a master strategist and a master communicator. And that's something that she blessed me with as well. But as I've gotten older, I had surrounded myself with all kinds of people. And I wasn't being discerning with the type of people I was surrounding myself with or marrying in that case. And it took time because I am a caregiver. I'm a caretaker. I'm a fixer. That's me, and to a fault sometimes, because I feel like if I can help heal you, that'll somehow heal me in the process. I had no boundaries. And it took years and years and years for me to realize that the importance of who you surround yourself with and why you surround yourself with those people. Not that you can't be there for those that
Sure.
who are not necessarily incapable, but just unable right now to give back or to fill you up. But it's so important not to be pouring from an empty cup, and to surround yourself with people who pour into your cup as well while you're pouring into others. And it was, I think, let me see, probably around the time of my um, divorce that I really started to pay attention to who I surrounded my people who wanted the best for me. People who didn't have any ulterior motives, people who would listen to me because I never shared. And I had people in my life who were okay with that. They were like, I'll do all the talking. Let me tell you about everything. You can help me solve my problems. I remember I had this friend she would ask me for money all the time, and I didn't have any. I was making like $500 a month. And it was literally, I will get into that, but like I didn't know how I survived after my divorce. I was like homeless. I didn't want to take anything. I was like, I'll leave you with everything. God provide. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And I was sleeping on couches. And when I did finally get a place, I have no idea how I was able to afford it. I literally was God, because I had the rent, the car that I was making $300 to $500 a month. And somehow everything was being taken care of. And then a year later, I had everything I ever needed. And my ex at the time had nothing. And I had no joy in that either. But it was just, it's still someday I'm like, how did he provide in that way? I still don't understand. But she would ask for money and I'd be like, well, I'm going to help you even though I have nothing to pour from. And one day I'd be like, the bills are due at the same time every month. Why do you keep asking me? You're married. Like, you have help. Like, why? And she was like, because you always have it. And I was like, oh, I don't have boundaries. And I don't have anyone pouring into me. And I think it was at that point, it was a turning point in my life where I started to be very discerning with who I kept in my life. I didn't like kick people out, but I just was not as accessible before. And if I did not have it in my cup, I could not pour from it. But I'll pray for you. Yeah. I'll pray for you. And that made all the difference in my life.
So I've got 2 more questions,
Yeah.
and I'll let Jared wrap us up. But because if I don't ask a chosen question,
I'm like, why is she here?
No, they're gonna be like, why didn't you ask her? You didn't ask her. So we would love to hear your, like, what they call it, the Red Sea moment at the chosen, kind of the moment that obviously you saw a little bit before you were casted.
Yes.
But then as you've been going through all of the seasons, is there a moment that has just kind of clicked for you? You're like, man, this work is just something more than what it is.
Well, when I was cast, it was already amazing, but there's things I would love to share that I can't actually, like that that I've seen it and I was just like, this is some of the most phenomenal work and one of the most unforgettable experiences of my life. And that's what we did this past season, filming season 6. And I feel like they shared enough that I can at least say that this season focused so heavily on the women who followed Jesus and their journey and their time at the cross.
Mm-hmm.
That has been some of the most intense filming of my career. And I have seen some of the most heart-wrenching, incredible performances of my life from these women and George, who plays John. I don't think I'll ever be a part of anything else like this in my career, to just watch how they went through this entire season, living in this profound and deep emotion every day. And always bringing something different. And that's the thing I was saying about cups. And I've said this on actually one of our round tables, I think, is that all of these beautiful women were like chalices, each with varying amounts inside. And there was times where one of us was completely empty and we don't know if we can pull any more out of this. And we know there's so much more to give, like to do. I don't have it. I don't have it. And then you'll feel a hand on your shoulder. And then you'll feel your cup being poured a little by this one and a little by that one and a little by this one. And everyone is pouring into you. And that just kept happening in different people. Each one of us, when this one's empty, we're all pouring into that. And it was just such a bonding experience. And then the story we're telling at that. I know Tom was there, but just seeing Jonathan after the scourging, just to see how he looked. It was visceral. It was experience to see that. And my mind was like, Jesus went through this. I was looking at this beaten, broken body covered in blood. And to see my friend, Vanessa, who plays Mother Mary, I didn't see Mother Mary. I didn't see Vanessa. I saw a mom looking at her baby being tortured and ridiculed and not being able to do anything about it. And when you start to see these people as people and not some, even though we know it was divinity, but it's just like, oh, it's unreachable. I can't touch that. Jesus, he's floating. So he's like, no, he was here, right here, sitting here, right beside us, suffering, bleeding, loving, caring, hugging, feeding. And I can see it, and I have such a personal relationship now to everyone. And they're not just names in a book anymore. And that was just, it's an experience that will never be replicated. That's for sure.
Okay, so a cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger. Yeah, you just got to see
wait.
that.
We just
you
gotta
have
wait.
to be there. Well, I can say also in season 3, and it might be a little biased, but the scene between Mary and Tamar when they're hashing out, I feel like it's so important because there's so much that's often left unsaid in our relationships that destroys them that could be solved with a simple conversation. And then you understand that both people were coming from a place of pain, and that you never understand or never truly know what someone else is going through. And if we can just take a small moment, sit a little bit of that pride to the side and try to invest in that relationship, is everything okay? That would change so many of our lives, and we'd be able to save so many of our relationships and nurture them. And that's something that I definitely took with me after that, is just to have more compassion for people, even people who I feel are not being so nice to me. That's happened actually recently. I went to eat and the lady comes, she throws the menus down. She's like, welcome, look over and see, do you need anything? You want to drink something? I was like, yeah. And she was just like that the whole time. I'll just be back. And the lady is sitting with me. She's like, and I was just like, she might be having a bad day. Yeah. And she came back and we were checking out and she goes, I hope everything was great. I was like, it was great. Are you okay? And she started she started brimming with tears, and she goes, I knew you clocked it and I'm not okay. And I was just like, you know what? That's fine. It's fine that you're not okay. It's fine that you're not okay. You'll be off work really soon. And whatever it is you're going through, I hope that it passes quickly. And she was just like, you could see the relief in her eyes. And it took a moment of empathy because I could have been upset. I could have went and wrote my review like they were awful. But it just takes a moment of compassion and empathy and understanding. And just, are you okay? Could take you really far away. So that's one of my
Thank you for sharing that.
scenes.
I love that you brought that. I love this scene, so thanks for sharing
Thank you.
So Amber, if we could have you look into that camera
Looking.
and with all the passion in the world, share the one message that you haven't talked about, maybe that's been sitting on your heart, maybe that's been right here that you feel they need to hear. What would that look like? What would that sound like? What would that smell like?
A message. There's something that used to say in church all the time when I was younger, and they probably still do. And it's that trouble does not last always. The storm does not last always. And it's hard to see the sun shining when you're standing in the middle of it. It really is. I know, trust me. But the moment will pass. This too shall pass. And I don't want you to think that you need to be strong. I don't want you to think that you need to handle everything on your own. Give it to God and call in your tribe. And if you don't have a tribe, call me, write me. And let it go. That's not your burden to carry. It's not at all. And I want you to take that with you because that was something that I've had to learn just recently myself through my own trials and tribulations. So trouble doesn't last always. The storm will pass. And though you are unique, your situation is not. Someone has gone through that before and have made it through. And there's no doubt in my mind that you won't either.
Amber, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And like always, if you loved something that you heard today from Amber, like, subscribe, share, make sure that this podcast go viral. It's a platform for story. It's a platform for you to share. I hope that what you took away from today is that you don't need to be strong. You can be resilient. You don't need to be nice, but you can be kind. You can actually be meek like Jesus Christ was and show strength and beauty. And I love the scene that you shared, Amber, of Jonathan. I have never been a mom. I'll never experience what Mary must have felt, gone through, and seen as her baby boy was beaten in front of her. Yet she quietly drew upon a bigger strength. And I hope that that's the strength that you remember and see and strive to find in your life. I have a testimony that Jesus Christ lives and he comforts and he loves. And he will bring peace and joy into your life. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.